Hi everybody, specialization and the division of labor. These are heavyweight concepts in economics and very much made famous by Adam Smith in his book, The Wealth of Nations. Let's start by understanding what specialization is. Well, specialization is the concentration of production on a narrow range of goods and services. It could be countries that are specializing, regions specializing, firms specializing, even workers specializing in producing a narrow range of goods and services. So very much focusing attention on producing a certain good or a certain service. Why is that a good thing? Well, there are multiple advantages of specialization. The first one being higher output, in truth, maximization of output. And that is because now resources are going to be purely focused into efficient production. Where inefficient production previously was taking place, that production now will completely cease. And all those resources will be diverted where countries are producing goods and services they are most efficient at. That's a very, very good allocation of resources, but also it's going to mean the maximum output being produced as all resources are concentrated in producing a narrow range of goods and services. For specialization to work, there has to be mutually beneficial trade. So if a country is specializing in only a few goods and services, they need to be able to import those goods and services that they're not efficient at producing. They also need to be able to export the good or the service that they are efficient at producing. And if they're able to export, they're able to trade in that way, export revenues can rise, economic growth can rise. With that, jobs are created, higher incomes come as a result. So you get those macro benefits that come with higher output. On the micro side, higher output just means greater living standards, greater choice for consumers, more job opportunities as well. So multiple benefits here of maximization of output that comes from specialization. At the same time, you're going to get a wider range of goods and services. That sounds slightly counterintuitive when we say it's the concentration on a narrow range of goods and services. But if we take a company like Dyson are the masters of air technology. But within that narrow focus, they produce a wide range of hair dryers, of vacuum cleaners, of hand dryers. The range is actually quite wide within the narrow range that they're specializing in. So we get that benefit too. We also get greater allocative efficiency from specialization. We can actually overcome the problem of scarcity here. And that's because resources will go to companies, to regions, to countries who are the most efficient at producing. Resources will be taken away from inefficient production towards efficient production to maximize output. In that sense, specializing there means we have the most efficient use of scarce resources, means countries can import goods and services that they're inefficient at producing. A very, very good allocation of resources to maximize output and thus satisfy as much consumer demand as possible. So we go quite far in solving the basic economic problem in overcoming the issues of scarcity there. At the same time, specialization can drive greater productivity. As workers specialize, they're going to be used better. They're going to be used to their maximum productive potential. And that higher productivity is great news for firms. It's going to lower their cost of production. That can be passed on to consumers via lower prices. We've already said the higher quantity, but also quality improvements too. But there are some major issues that come with specialization. The problem of finite resources. So companies who are very over-specialized, countries that are over-specialized and require a certain input in their production like oil. What happens if oil is depleted? That could spell the end of the business. At the same time, a change in fashion or taste away from that good or service can spell real issues for businesses that are over-specialized, that haven't diversified. At the same time, what if foreign countries or foreign firms suddenly become more efficient than another industry abroad at producing a good or service? Well, then the other industry that's now not as efficient anymore is going to deindustrialize, is going to decline. With that, you're going to see high rates of unemployment. And we've already said that for specialization to work, there needs to be mutually beneficial trade. Countries need to be able to export their surplus of the good or service that they're efficient at producing and to be able to import goods and services they're inefficient at producing. But if there are international relations issues between countries, for whatever reason, that trade could be blocked off. Specialization simply won't give you these benefits in that situation. What is division of labor now? The division of labor comes after specialization has taken place, where the production process is broken down into separate tasks. So firms now divide up their workforce into very narrow production tasks. In that sense, you have production lines and workers are allocated not to make an entire good, but instead to make a very, very small part of the good instead. So the production process broken down into production lines, workers are allocated in those lines instead. That is the division of labor. Why is that a good thing? Well, worker productivity is going to be absolutely huge if day in, day out, they're just performing the same task over and over and over again. And high productivity could drive up wages for workers, but certainly for the firm, it's going to mean time savings. It's going to mean lower cost of production. That can be passed on to consumers via lower prices. Output is going to be maximized. Profitability is going to be high for the firm as well. Add to that benefit the fact that workers can be complemented with specialist machinery that can drive up their productivity even more if they have a machine to help them. They're already very good at that task, performing it day in, day out. With a machine alongside, their productivity can be maximized even further. All of that is going to give you these benefits. In the end, really for consumers, the low prices, the high consumer surplus, high quantity and high choice for consumers, and higher quality of goods and services produced as well, given these massive worker benefits. But it's not all good news. There are problems, absolutely, with division of labor too. The major one being that, performing the same task over and over and over again can eventually demotivate workers. Productivity over time can actually decline, cost of production rise. It might get so bad that workers actually leave the business, and you see high worker turnover, which can be a major issue for businesses looking for more stable long-term employment. Workers themselves are at big risk of long-term unemployment through massive over-specialization here, producing a very narrow part of a good or service if technology advances and the job can be done by a machine instead. In that sense, the job can become automated. Instead, workers could lose their job. They are so highly skilled in that one thing, it might be very difficult for workers then to transfer into other employment. They become long-term unemployed, bad news for them and their living standards, but also a drag on government and government finances. And equally, we might worry that at the end, with such division of labor, such huge specialization of the workforce, you end up with very highly standardized goods and services, factory-made goods and services. You're losing the unique touch that often we consumers like to see. So that, guys, covers everything you need to know here. Hopefully that was really interesting for you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.